Please join us in welcoming on stage Audrey Tang, Taiwan's Minister of Digital Affairs, and a conversation with Wang, Senior Director for Foreign Policy at SCSP.
We're only at hour 8 today. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for staying. It has been a great day. It will continue to be a great day. Audrey, thank you so much for coming all the way from Taiwan and also from New York to join us today.
Yeah, nice to meet you in high definition.
In 3D. So Audrey, you're a global leader on cyber resilience and digital democracy. Mm-hmm. And we wanted this chat to really feature how Taiwan is this amazing success story. Mm-hmm. Despite all of the cyber attacks, despite all of the disinformation, mm-hmm. despite violations of your airspace, disruptions of your maritime navigation. Mm-hmm. How do you do it? Can you talk to us about what lessons the world can learn about how you yourself mm-hmm. have really strengthened Taiwan's digital democracy mm-hmm. against all of these things that you face every single day from the PRC?
Yeah, whenever there's an attack on our democracy, we just counter with more democracy and increase the bandwidth of democracy, reduce the latency of democracy to make sure that we can actually get a very quick response from our people on how best to solve any dilemma, really. I remember during the pandemic, there was this framing that you either cater for safety and sacrifice economic progress or the other way around. And we managed to co-create with the civil society, with people to avoid like any single day of lockdowns throughout 3 years. And so after that experience, we basically upgraded our democratic institutions so that whenever there's any emerging issues, we do not wait for 4 years to upload 3 bits of information each called voting, but instead just align the society to counter that particular threat.
Yeah, no, and I think it's important to start on the defense, we talked about this beforehand. I think it's also important to show the PRC in terms of what we can do on offense and really demonstrating that democracies, open societies actually have a better model in terms of how we live our lives and what our way of life can be. Mm-hmm. And so can you talk to us about, your ministry just was created last year, mm-hmm. and you have a model of participation, progress, and safety.
Yes.
And I think it's an incredible way to really showcase how mm-hmm. Your ministry really is focused on working with the Taiwanese people, mm-hmm. on building a positive vision for what technology can do for Taiwan and for your people. Can you talk to us about what you do?
Definitely. Yeah, our tagline is digital resilience for all. And we have this quite unique design in that my ministry, Ministry of Digital Affairs, is all about universal service, competence, education, broadband as a human right, data infrastructure, and so on. But underneath the ministry, there are 2 administrations. One for the digital industries, which is AI, digital transformation, economic progress stuff, and also underneath the same ministry, the administration for cybersecurity, which is about safety, testing, verification, and so on. So in most other countries, you have this triangle in 3 different ministries, or you have one ministry taking care of one side and then counterbalancing it with another, maybe on safety, maybe on economic affairs. But by taking this triangle approach, we basically looked at each attack as an opportunity for more resilience. Case in point, we're very new. We're a startup, really, which started last August. And just a couple of weeks before we started, when we say to the Taiwanese society that our tagline is digital resilience for all, it's not very easy to understand. But then former Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan. And right after the same hour as our website went online, missiles started flying over our head. And in addition to the background level of around 5 million cyber attack attempts per day, now on that day, we suffered 23 times more denial of service attacks volume compared to the previous peak. So basically just through, almost unlimited resources to shut down our governmental websites. And we do see that around 7-Eleven convenience stores and train stations, the signboards are replaced by hate messages and so on. But we took that as an opportunity for public education, basically. I said public to the press that they're, trying to put the stock market, try to decimate our trust in democratic institutions. However, our website didn't go down for even 1 second. And I invite everyone to install this Brave browser, to use IPFS to help backing us up and things like that. So basically use it as a way to educate the people about the nature of such cyber attacks and develop effective countermeasures. And interestingly, of course, the stock market totally did not plummet, but also people became, there's this instinctive sense of, oh, everyone can contribute to digital resilience. And so earlier this year, we have the 2 subsea cables, the only 2, connecting Taiwan and the Matsu Islands cut within the same week, right? First, a PRC flag flying fishing vessel accidentally dropped the anchor and kept moving. And then a few days later, another cargo ship flying PRC flag accidentally dropped the anchor and kept moving. And then Matsu Island was without internet. And then again, we took that as a chance to not just teach people about, microwave and also satellite and backup and things like that, but we also see a lot of civil society just start learning about how to set up emergency communications when the bandwidth is limited and so on. So it become almost a kind of hobby pastime to speculate, like next time when all we have is satellite internet, how can we actually get a message out and things like that. So I would say that in Taiwan, this is not a polarized or partisan issue. People look at each incoming attack and think about ways, how can we increase the bandwidth of democracy so that we can counter that sort of attack the next time around.
So a lot of our focus today really is around AI, generative AI. We talked earlier about the big report that we released a couple of weeks ago on Gen AI and the future of innovation power. So can you talk to us a little bit about what inspires you about AI, but also what are some of the key risks that you think about in your job?
Yeah, well, we have an election coming up. So January next year, we're probably the first in line in a very long rolling list of democratic elections. And this year, we've seen new capabilities enabled by generative AI, voice cloning fraud calls that, just copies somebody's voice and you can pick up the phone and it keeps holding a conversation really interactively, but at almost no cost. So what used to be, require a very large data center and so on, can now be mounted using open source models on a laptop, really. And so with that capability, we see just unprecedented individual persuasion capabilities leading up to elections. And the traditional models of countering the, A, B, C, D actor behavior content distribution, limiting the distribution like the number of retweets or shares or watermarking the content and so on, doesn't work anymore with this new attack vector. So we have to prepare for that kind of attack by shifting left to the actor, to the behavior, to make sure that, for example, we don't use passwords anymore in my ministry. Everything is passkey, everything is FIDO, biometric, yet we don't want a real name internet. So we'll invest in zero knowledge technology so you can prove that you're a resident or citizen without having to show your real name in order to engage in democratic conversations online. So I think we've had plenty of time actually to prepare for that kind of precision interactive deepfake attack leading up to election day. And we probably will have more stories to share next February after our election. Now, the exciting thing for me for Gen AI is how malleable it is by everyday people. Previously, for transformative technologies, you need experts' help in order to align it, meaning to make it respond to the societal needs. But nowadays, for example, the fact checkers in Taiwan, there's this vibrant community called G0V or Gov0, people who are civic hackers in the sense that there's a new societal issue and people just start writing open source code to counter it. And for many, many years, there's this project called co-facts or collaborative fact checking, where people just in end-to-end encrypted channels, they can nevertheless long press a message and report it, like reporting spam, and see in the dashboard what are the most trending kind of disinformation there is. And it works pretty well, but part-time fact checkers, along with, of course, professional fact checkers, are outnumbered, right? The people who actually do those foreign interference nowadays coordinated with cyber attack have a lot of resources and the clarification for each trending meme of the day, the trending propaganda of the day depends on people in their spare time. But this year, because Gen AI is just so malleable, they just fine-tuned a language model together that can clarify such disinformation attacks 24/7. Adding back context and things like that. And then, so we're no longer outnumbered. And the best thing is that because it doesn't need dedicated hardware or resource and can be done on laptops, it is still squarely in the social sector by volunteers, which is the best place to be so that it will not be captured right, by any state or capitalist apparatus. So I'm truly excited on how we can align AI using nothing but plain language. And we've been working with GovZero projects such as Taiwan, which is now in a partnership with OpenAI, to just listen to what people want from the language models' interactions with them, and using constitutional AI alignment techniques, meaning that we just listen to everybody's words, compress it without losing nuance, and just put it into a language model and say, use this to align your next training run so it fits the local norms instead of everybody subscribing to the same monoculture.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And you mentioned earlier, obviously, there'll be elections in Taiwan in January. What do you think is going to happen, both in terms of the work that you've built up in the ministry and the ministry itself after January? What do you see for the future there?
Yeah, so if we do our job right, nothing bad happens, right? Because all of our defense, really, by shifting left, is to make it very clear to any adversary that they would just squander resources if they attack us. We detected, for example, like SMS spams and scams and interactive frauds and so on. So just this week, we're switching our ministry and soon all other ministries so that when we reach you through SMS, for example, or phone calls in the future, it all goes into this single caller number 111, and we don't use any other number to contact you via SMS. It's a very simple idea, but the idea is that we no longer need to tell people how to spot a fake content versus real content, or to invest in watermarking techniques that doesn't work now with open source model and rephrasing attack. Instead, something very simple, the provenance, the actor. We say, okay, these are real organizations, these are real people, and everything else is assumed to be a bot. And so this kind of defense posture, we believe, if done right, can shield the worst of the election interference. But of course, the adversaries are very creative, so we will have more stories to tell.
Can I ask, is there anything you need from the international community as you prepare for January 2024?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think just the willingness to observe our election or the events leading up to our election, to let adversaries know that the international watch, right, is on this, our democratic situation. And also just knowledge sharing, right? Most of the stuff that I described is not invented in Taiwan, right? We learn it from the best. Our public infrastructure that enable this kind of data infrastructure, the zero knowledge work, and so on. We drew inspiration from the X Road, which is Estonia, Iceland, Finland, and so on. And because it's all out in the open, you can also take some of that toolkit and also implement here in the state level, in the federal level, and so on. And the same goes for the alignment assemblies, right? The AI moderated facilitation that enables people to align not just AI models together, but also policies around emerging technology together. Again, that is all open source. People can run it. In fact, Anthropic and OpenAI are both running it as we speak. Yeah.
So you've been here in the US a couple of days. I mean, what are, I guess, not to be blunt, but I guess what are we doing wrong, right? In terms of, like, you guys are doing so much in terms of preserving your democracy while you're facing all the different attacks from the PRC. As a general matter, like, what do you think? What do democracies around the world, what are some lessons that they should take away from how Taiwan has kind of preserved everything that you've built on the island, and again, in terms of supporting democracy writ large, but also promoting their people and supporting the people and making sure that they're safe, secure, prosperous at home and free.
Yeah. So going back to the triangle, right? Participation, progress, and safety. I think what Taiwan got right was that we never accept anything framed as a safety or progress trade-off, because that's one of the fundamental polarization when it comes to emerging technologies. We've got people, just doubling down on safety side and say, pause training for 6 months or things like that. And people who are saying, without this progress, we're going to lose the race, but without steering to a race to safety, right? So this is a very polarizing conversation. But in Taiwan, instead, with participation, we just ask the people, what are the immediate harms you are already seeing from transformative technologies? Because nobody wants to, intentionally cause societal-wide harms or extinction risks. And that become a focusing kind of selling point, how to mitigate those harms. So for example, in terms of social media harms, when it comes to the kind of interactive deepfakes I just mentioned, we did not pass anything like the EU Digital Service Act, this umbrella social media regulation. But we were very quick in noticing, for example, that those interactive scams are now deepfaking, Audrey Tang giving you investment advice or things like that. And we very quickly then passed a law amendment that says if Facebook, received this threat indicator that there is this cyber attack going on, a manipulation attack going on, we phrase it as a manipulation attack, not as a freedom of speech or editorial control, right? So there's an attack going on, and then if they do not deplatform that, and somebody gets conned $1 million, then Facebook is liable for that $1 million. So it's very simple, right? It's just internalizing the negative externalities. But it is only possible if you have a radar of sorts that lets people socially evaluate those impact that emerging technology have on the society, and very quickly, in an almost weekly fashion, discover ways to reassign liabilities to those actors.
So two questions to really close out this session.
Mm-hmm.
First, there's a lot of talk in Washington about Taiwan for obvious reasons. We started our day with a lot of focus on Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think Washington is kind of missing when it comes to Taiwan?
Ah.
Right? Just the big question, but also like we talked earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, when I think about Taiwan, beef noodle soup.
Mm.
It is. If you ever go to Taiwan, we had a chance to bring some of our team to Taiwan back in June, and I exposed them to beef noodle soup. It really is just one of the culinary experiences that you need to experience when you go to Taiwan. But in terms of like stuff that DC
Mm-hmm.
doesn't necessarily think about when it comes to Taiwan, either on the politics, on security, or something cultural, what do you think? What would you want the people to know about Taiwan?
Yeah, culturally, I don't know whether many people know, but Taiwan has more than 20 national languages, and including, of course, Daigi, Hakka, and so on, but also 16 indigenous nations with 42 language variations and a Taiwanese Sign Language. And all these are national languages, which means that when we train our national language model, we have to support them all. So this is partly why we're doing alignment assemblies, because without the support of the language communities, especially indigenous ones, they're going to get massively discriminated. You can't just, imagine, even Daigi, right, which we both speak, if you insist that ChatGPT, a little bit, yeah, ChatGPT, if you ask it to speak Daigi to you, it starts speaking Cantonese, but insists that it's speaking Daigi. So there is all this needs to not just fine-tune, but also do our own pre-training to support the kind of language alignment that is transcultural, that is not just about the linguistic thing, but also epistemically, to make sure that the indigenous nations, the Daigi, the Hakka, and so on, with their own worldview, can get accurate cultural translation when we're talking about things like aligning generative AI together. And so not losing nuances despite very different cultural traditions. This is why I call Taiwan, the transcultural republic of citizens.
And last question in terms of, Chris Darby on the last session, I think, and others have asked this of a lot of our speakers. So we do have a lot of young people in the room, right? We always love to kind of inspire them and mentor them and encourage them to think about their careers as they go either in government or private sector. You've had the experience of being both on the outside of government and on the inside of government, working in tech, working on public policy. What advice do you give people either in Taiwan or elsewhere that ask you for advice about their career paths as they think about what they should do as they finish school?
Yeah, so my role, 数位部长, Ministry of Digital Affairs, In traditional Mandarin, 数位 means digital, of course, but also plural. It's the same word. So I'm also Minister of Plurality, if you will. And this is quite important, not just in Taiwan, the Transcultural Republic, but also just to see digital as a force to bring unlikely bridging consensus from previously in space or in time disconnected people. So, and this opens up new imaginations about democracy that is not just about uploading 3 bits every 4 years via voting. And so I would encourage young people to rethink democracy as a social technology to, as I mentioned, increase bandwidth and reduce latency, but also to preserve nuance. A lot of the transformational technology governance work was limited by the bandwidth of executive summaries, right? If I look at this executive summary, a few paragraphs, even a whole handbook, and I think I read pretty fast, but I cannot go back to the original panel, the original citizens' assemblies, the original juries or whatever that formed this executive summary. But now with language models, and we're using it for real policy making now with technologies like Talk to the City and so on, you can actually ask that paragraph executive summary. I'm facing a new situation. What do you folks think? And then it can go back to the original conversation and synthesize the response and tell you who to call to get the most insight from that conversation. And with this enabling technology, we do not have to lose nuance. Democracy is no longer a lossy compression. You can do a lossless or almost lossless compression across cultures. And I would encourage young people to rethink democracy with this in mind.
Democracy as a technology. I think that's a great way to end. But also, again, we started today with Ukraine. I'm glad we were able to bring you here as well to talk about Taiwan, since obviously that's a lot of what's on people's minds here in DC and elsewhere around the world. So thank you so much for making the way here from Taiwan and New York to be able to join us today.
Yeah, thank you. Live long and prosper.
Thanks.